All right. So, law of attraction and quantum physics. What's the relationship between the law of attraction and quantum physics? Well, we talk about attraction. What is attraction? Attraction is magnetic in many ways. So, how magnets attract, we know that from the laws of physics. And so, let's start off a bit with the law of attraction and magnetic attraction. So, everything in the universe has a polarity. Everything in the universe is composed of vibration, of matter, of energy, and we can discover things like photons, electrons, and all the rest of these particles that we would have heard about through physics. Now, to shortcut the process, without me going into physics and all the rest of it, let's quickly talk about quantum physics and the nature of reality. So, if you haven't heard about the double slit experiment, it was an experiment done a while ago, the 60s and 70s, where Einstein was around and a few others like Niels Bohr, Richard Feynman, and quite a few other physicists that were on the cutting edge discovering the topic of quantum physics. Traditional physics, we had Newton and his laws, but then later on, quantum physics came about and looked at things at the quantum level, which is a quanta is like it's a unit of measurement, and we're talking about a very small scale, subatomic. So at one point we had the atomic scale, and then we then delved deep into subatomic, and we go down and down and down into that scale, and we get down to what they call a Planck scale, which is a very very minute sense of comparison wise. I think it's just a rough estimate, a 10 millionth of a hair, of the size of a hair. So we're talking very very small. And what they find is that particles that behave one way on a large scale or atomic and over atomic started behaving very differently at a subatomic level. Now, what that implies, or what they found through different experiments, like the double slit experiment, is it started to contradict the laws of physics, because Newton, on the one hand, was talking about light, for instance, being matter, and that matter is matter, and if you have matter on one side, if you have an atom on one side, and you put it through a device, it should come out the other side the same way as matter. Later on, through the double slit experiment, and other experiments that were conducted, like the Copenhagen experiment, what you found is that what was matter was behaving like a wave. So it was quite certain that light was a particle. And we talk about light, we talk about any particles in nature. However, what they found is that the same particle started behaving like a wave, because when they put it through the slit, instead of it coming out the other side as a particle, it started creating a wave interference pattern on the other side. And because it was creating interference, it was behaving like a wave. So then people came up with ideas of a thing called a wavicle. Was it a particle or was it a wave? Taking that forward, they decided to measure when it was a particle and when it was a wave. And they decided to see what the observer or the scientist looking at the experiment had an effect on it. And what they found is that the observer has an impact on the outcome of the experiment. Now, to pause there for a second, to reiterate, so I don't get too heavy. I think I have gotten a bit too heavy. If I've lost somebody, please just tell me and I can go over it again and explain any terms that you don't get. It's quite a vast topic. So what they found essentially is that the observer affected the outcome of the experiment. Now, what does that imply in our everyday life? If you look deeply into the nature of light, at one stage it was discovered that it was a photon. But now light was behaving very erratically. Until today, we don't know convincingly what light is and how it behaves. So if we take light being a photon and we take electrons being the fundamental source of a particle or of an atom, everything in the universe behaves at the subatomic level in a very strange way that nobody's able to measure. And now, one of the fascinating men at this time was a man named John Wheeler. And John Wheeler is a fascinating character. He is the one that came up with the concept of dark matter. So John Wheeler, he made the statement, and he said, out of all my experiments and all my research, what I know to be true is that we live in a participatory universe. So I repeat that. We live in a participatory universe, which means that the universe participates in how we perceive it to be. So again, referring back to the experiments, the way the particles of the waves behave depends on how we observe it. So here's a simple example to explain. If I have a mouse and I have two shoe boxes, and I let the mouse out, does the mouse go in the box on the left, or does the mouse go in the box on the right? Now you'd say, well, it's 50-50. You don't know what the odds are. But to simplify matters, the mouse will go into the box that you think it will go into, which is really strange. So somehow your observation creates that reality. So what they found, which is just phenomenal, is that particles are in a state of superimposition, which means they are in all places at the same time. So they are not in any set place. So you could say, before you observed the particle, it was everywhere. And then you observed it, and because you observed it, it appeared there. Now, the implications of that are, which is really interesting, is that if the universe responds to the questions that we ask, then the nature of our questions will determine the outcome that it produces. Does that make sense? Put up your hands if anybody's got it so far. Okay, one person got it. Okay, so let me explain quickly again. Because we live in a participatory universe, and because particles and matter in the universe respond to our measurement, these particles, or reality, responds to the way we think it will respond. The way we look for something is the way it appears. Let's use a practical example. If you think that every time you go out, someone's chasing you, there's a strong chance that you would have created an effect where somebody's going to be chasing you. So if you have this belief that everybody hates me, you somehow are creating that. So when you ask the question to the universe, a lot of people hate me, the universe says, well, sure, let me show you how many other people hate you. It starts giving you back feedback, which is really strange, but it's very true. So if you go out saying, I wonder how many people love what I have to say, the universe starts responding this way. So the energy that you emit out starts affecting matter. So if you think about it, if you were your own quantum scientist and you were your own experimenter, you can do an experiment. Spend a day in imagining how amazing the day is going to go and watch how the day unfolds. Because of your observation for how things are unfolding, things unfold the way that you imagine them to be many of the times. And that sometimes you say, okay, I'm going to imagine it all to be great, but there's a strong sense inside of you in the back of your mind going, no, this is a bunch of crap, it's not going to work. What ends up happening is the universe responds back to that energy, which is mind-blowing in many ways. And I don't know if you found, if you hurt yourself eating something and you bit your lip, right, when you're eating something, what's the chances of you biting your lip again? And doesn't that hurt? Now, how is it that when you bit your lip, you're trying to make sure you don't bite your lip on that same spot again? What do? You bite it again. And if you go out, like a friend of mine, he would go for walking in the forest, and he said, oh, I hate it. Every time I go out, I get dog poo on my shoes. And I said, I go out all the time. I've never gotten dog poo on my shoes. Isn't that interesting? And then I said to him, well, let me know how it goes this time. And he said, happened again. And I said, that's really strange. So somehow we're living in two different realities. In his reality, the dog poo follows him. And in my reality, the dog poo never chases after me. So how does that work? So somehow, because, and this is quantum physicists saying it, not just me, that we live in a participatory universe, so the energy that you put out starts changing matter. This is proven by the quantum experiments because of the double-slit experiment. And the observer effect, which is one of the scientific names given to it, is called the observer effect. So you observing something now creates that reality. If there were no observers and no one to measure it, what state would all the particles in the universe be in? If you can answer that, you get a free chocolate. Anybody want to take a guess? Level, yes. On another level, they don't move about on their own volition. So they are in a state of superimposition. They are in all places in all times, at the same time in all places. So they are waiting for, you could call it waiting, but it's not the right term in a detailed way. So if you want, let's wind it back to the law of attraction here. If you want the universe to respond a certain way, then you have to emit at a certain frequency in line with that. Now, that doesn't happen through thought, that happens through the heart. And that's an entire discussion that we need to focus on, how the heart has the ability to intuit. The heart has access beyond time and space. This has been proven now by Heart Math Institute and has been known by mystics all along, that the heart can predict and the heart can create a reality before it's manifest. So the heart is a creation machine. It does not reside in time and space. So you could say it's out of space and it's out of time. So how to use the heart to attract what you want? Now, before people get ahead of it and say, okay, so if I figure this out, then I'll get my brand new Lamborghini and I don't have to work again. Well, that is typically true. It could be true. However, what most people don't get with this law of attraction is that in order for you to manifest anything into reality, Sergio, I love your profile picture. You're such an original. For you to manifest anything into reality, you have to be on the same frequency as every other particle that is in the state of superimposition. So you could say that every particle in the universe, before it's observed, is in the state of wholeness. It's in the state of oneness, and what I talk about in my book, nothingness. So it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So for you to be able to manifest into reality something different, you need to first be in the state of wholeness. You need to be in that state of total acceptance. And acceptance implies suffering, you see. But it's not that. It's a total in line, in tune with the way the universe is functioning right now, and you not being separate from it. And this is what they call the 0 point field, right? So the 0 point field is, you could say, the source of creation, where once you tap into that realm from wholeness and oneness, then you can manifest into reality a new energetic frequency, because before physical matter is manifested into reality, and an energetic match has to be made. And that's where we'll talk about the law of vibration, which is matching the vibration. So the heart has the ability to manifest via matching vibration. So if you were in a state of feeling, oh my God, the whole world is against me, what you find is that you will manifest unconsciously more things that show you why things are against you. But then that's your frequency that you're putting out. So you match the universe is matching your frequency. And if you put out a frequency of wholeness and oneness, then the universe matches that frequency. And that's the tricky bit, because that takes practice and that takes dropping and unlearning. So the reason why you want to attract something new in your life is because you're unhappy with your current life, which means the law of attraction doesn't work for you. Because now you're out of alignment, because you're saying, I don't want to be here, I want to be somewhere else. And the law of attraction is saying you need to be somewhere else in order for you to manifest further. And that's where most people don't get it. The other part about this is that once you achieve that state of wholeness and oneness and togetherness, or nothingness, you could say, then your desire for something more starts eroding, because you realize that you already are at this vibrational match. So whether you have the Ferrari or not, it doesn't in any way change your state. So the Ferrari comes and the Ferrari goes. Your new boyfriend comes, your new husband, your new wife, your new boss, your new job. However, it's not affecting your state of being, right? Because you're already in that state of wholeness and of oneness. So that's the important thing. And so, you know, the study then leads, my study then led into the mystical understanding and the Eastern philosophies about this. And we look at the non-duality, and we look at alignment with the mystical understanding of the nature of reality, where everything is in this perfect symphony and harmony, and that everything is vibrating at precisely the right level. And there are no coincidences, there are no accidents. Everything is operating, including where you are right now, is exactly where you were meant to be. You start having a phenomenal shift. So it started out for me as a desire to get away from where I want to be, to me finding more of what it is that I am right now. So once you start opening your heart, and that's the heart needs to be brought into the picture, because what we've done is we've made the mind and the brain our master, we made the heart our slave. So we've got to elevate the heart to its rightful place as the general of your body or of your life. What you crave for is not the thing in the world, it's the feeling. And so Neville Goddard, who brought law of attraction to the Western world through the Christian sciences, and he got that from the Kabbalists and from Kabbalah, which then got it from the ancient Egyptians, and then goes back to a figure in history known as Hermes Trismegistus. So it all sort of circulates out there. But what Neville Goddard said was that the secret is in the feeling. So I'm sure many of you have watched the movie, the documentary called The Secret. So the secret is in the feeling, says that if you live in the world of feelings, and you are attracting and you are vibrating at the frequency of the feeling that you want to manifest, reality then follows that feeling. So let me repeat that. So instead of you manifesting, I want that thing, as in matter, you say, I want that frequency. And that frequency has a feeling attached to it. So the language of the mind is thought, and the language of the heart is feeling. So if you start using your heart to create the feeling of the vibrational match of what you want to attract, then if you can manifest the feeling as often as possible and become the feeling of what you want to be, then you allow the universe to manifest for you whatever form that matter takes that will equal to that feeling. So let me repeat that in some way for you. If you manifest the feeling, so let's give an example here. If you want a new job or you want more money, what is that? Why do you want those things? I want a new relationship. The reason you want all those things is because you want to feel a certain way. Think about it. If you got $1 million and you felt nothing, or let's talk about $1 billion, because $1 million is not that much money these days, right? You got $1 billion. Do you want the $1 billion, or do you want the $1 billion because of the way it's going to make you feel? Think about it. You had a feeling now. I hate where I am. So what you want to do is you want to be over there. So you want to create. You're saying, I don't like this feeling. I want that feeling. So when you get that thing that will equal to that feeling, you're saying, finally, I am finally rich. I never have to work again. I never have to do these things. And you're feeling relief. You're feeling whole. You're feeling delighted. You're feeling that you've achieved something. Those are feelings. Now, if you learn to manifest those feelings, then the universe responds in a way that gives you whatever that outcome is. Rather than $1 billion, it may be $10 billion. Maybe it not be money. It may be something else that would match that vibrational match to the frequency of that feeling. And that's the summary of, 10 years of study. So it's a lot in there. And you're welcome to ask questions. And there's a lot to unpack, but I did summarize quite a lot of it. And if you want to take this further into practice, then of course we've got lots of practices to do in order to manifest it. So the idea is not to create new things, because there's no such thing as matter in the universe. There's frequencies and there's vibrations. That's a reality. Even the table is vibrating. Everything is vibrational. Everything is on a vibrational frequency. So if you want a certain thing, what you actually want is not the thing. It's the frequency of that thing, the feeling of that thing. So what feeling will that create in you when you achieve that thing? And the more you can make the feeling real, the more you can allow the universe to manifest in its way, not your way. Because think about it. You say, I know what I want, because when I get that $1,000,000, then I'll be happy. But it may mean, and you've seen this with people that win lotteries, right? They're miserable and they end up spending all the money and they back to where they started with because they never felt worthy of money. And that's another whole topic altogether, is that we want something because we don't feel worthy of it. We haven't gotten it because we don't feel worthy of it. And when we get it by chance, again, there's no chance, we don't feel worthy of it and we lose it. It's like you want to attract this perfect person and you get that perfect person and you sabotage the whole thing. You say, I want that job, and you get the job and you sabotage it because there's a part of you that doesn't feel worthy of it. So feeling worthy to receive is a huge part of it. So it's all very much to do with the work of feelings rather than the work of thinking. And because we live in a universe, in a society that is so overwhelmingly focused on thoughts and rational thinking, we miss the point. Because if you think about everything that you ever wanted in your life, it wasn't a thing that you wanted. It was the feeling. If you said, I want to be a doctor. You didn't want to be a doctor because you wanted to be a doctor because you wanted to have that feeling of helping people. You didn't want this job because you could crunch numbers, because it could make you feel worthy, it could make you feel worthwhile. You could be doing something of value, something of meaning, something of purpose. All those lead to a feeling. So then it would mean that you need to surrender your mind and your brain and go back to your heart and say, what is it that I truly desire? Is it a feeling or is it a thing? And if it's a feeling that you desire, then your work needs to be done on the feeling, not on the thing, because the thing keeps on changing. You keep on getting another job. Money comes, money goes. Relationships, you get a relationship, you lose a relationship. Relationship's good, relationship sucks. It's all these polarities. Nothing remains. However, the feeling can be manifest immaterial of the external reality. So even if you're in a terrible job, you can still maintain that feeling. Does that make sense, guys? Well, and of course, the heart has been shown to be, if I'm not mistaken, 100 times more powerful a magnetic field than the brain. So if it is the vibration that you want to attract, then the heart is what you use and not the brain. Because you could think all day what it is that you want, but you're not going to manifest that. And people spend all their time in the known. They're always looking for things and, oh, okay, so if I do this and I do that, then I'll get that. And they're trapped because there's another thing called information theory, which John Wheeler expands a lot about, is that information is also created from our perception, again, with measurement and observing. So information is not real. We give it reality by observing it in a particular way. So again, it's all about going into the heart, and what you talk about there, Ronald, is lovely, because the science of emergence is that how do flocks of birds just manage to go left and right and know their directions and go over this location, and they travel these enormous distances without getting lost, and they do this from this field of energy that knows and has been coordinating, existing, and the Chinese call this, and the Taoists call this the Tao, the great Tao, the great universe, the great mother that is in this harmonious dance. And the reason why we want something else because we feel so disconnected. And the disconnection is not caused by the heart, it's caused by the brain. The brain is saying, I need to be there. And the heart is saying, well, you're everywhere. And that's where the disconnection, and that's what the poets like Rumi are saying, you have been created with wings. Why do you choose to crawl? But he's talking about the heart. So there is no other place to be except here. But here is everywhere. Here is not one physical location in time. Like I explained in the beginning of the call, is that the heart has the ability to sense beyond time and space. And you see these mystics and you see these people with these intuitive abilities like teleporting, telepathy. They can tell you things that are impossible to know during another time or locations. And in fact, even the CIA has employed these people that do these supernatural feats. It's called co-location, which is again proven on the quantum level. They can be in one location, and it's called remote viewing. So they can look into a remote site and give you detailed analysis of a location. They found out where some other government was hiding nuclear weapons by using these people with these remote viewing abilities. And that's all that there's these incredible intuitive powers that lie within the heart and within the body, because the body is quantum, if you want to call it that. But quantum is boring as far as I'm concerned, because it's energy. It goes so much deeper than this, and the ancients knew about it. The Tibetans, for instance, if you investigate them carefully, their knowledges of the energetic world is on another level. So that's where we're at, and I could talk about this for days. I hope you got some value from that. Just to summarize, if you want to know the practical steps on this, then tune into your heart and create the feeling of what it is that you want. But more importantly, that wherever you are, you have to be in alignment with where you are. And this is not just for this for the law of attraction. This is for you living in alignment with yourself, because you living in lack. I hate where I am is causing you to suffer, and you weren't created for suffering, right? You were here to manifest the reality, and where you are is exactly where you were meant to be. And that requires you tuning into your heart and tuning out of your brain, because the brain is attached to the ego, and the ego never likes to be where it is. It needs to be somewhere else. It has to be somewhere else. I hate this. This is the ego's chat all the time. Excuse me. So if you're listening to your ego and your brain, it can only lead to a life of suffering. And the Buddha said he came to end suffering, and that's what he's teaching, is the acceptance of where you are. But it's not this passive thing. Acceptance is realizing the magnificence in where you are right now. Not according to what your ego says, but if I'm here, and my cousin has now got 2 degrees, I'm sitting with 1 degree, then you're really participating in the wrong dialogue within. Does anybody have any questions? I can, if there's enough interest, share with me on the group link. If you enjoyed that, then I will do another call about this the same time next week and expand a lot more into these topics, and maybe we can get into some physical practices as well. It all just depends on the interest, because I've just got so many topics that I could chat on about, and just thought I'd share some of that knowledge with you. And we could go into a lot of details about Hermetic principles and what the Egyptians taught, which is how everything in the modern day has been formed on, and they've thrown out a lot. They've thrown out a lot and distillized it and made it quick and easy. 7 steps to the law of attraction. Follow this, this, and this, and Ferrari will appear outside your garage, and that's all people want. Unfortunately, that's not how the universe operates. So thank you for tuning in, guys. The idea was, and the hope was, and I'm so glad that it did transmit it, is to summarize and to sort of quantify and to give you a solid framework of all this stuff, because it's a very broad topic, and I spent countless hours doing that, and I'm hoping to shortcut that for some people and give them a quicker window into this understanding. So there was one thing that So this is just one thing that Wheeler said in the document that I'm reading now. He says the situation cannot declare itself until you've asked your question. But the asking of one question prevents and excludes the asking of another. So what Wheeler is saying is that what I get from this, and what I get from studying John Wheeler, is that ask the right questions. Do not ask the wrong questions, because the universe will show you the wrong answers. So in other words, ask the question as to, how am I going to succeed? Is it going to be like this, or is it going to be like that? But don't ask, how am I going to fail? How am I going to die? How am I going to get sick? How am I going to lose my loved ones? You're predicting this, and you're creating it by asking those questions, because this is what it ultimately has boiled down to from quantum physicists is that your questions are the single most important determinant of the outcomes that you achieve. So ask the questions, ask the universe, how will I be successful? How will I find love? How will I find joy? And for me, my own most important question after all my research and all my practices is, how will I find oneness, and how do I, as quickly as possible, live in the state of oneness, and how do I maintain the state of oneness for long as possible? Why did I discover that? Because that's the key that holds it all together. If you're living in a state of oneness, you're living in a state of vibrational unification with everything in every place, in every time, in every space. And that's the place that you want to live in. But the mind creates the duality. And so the whole point is to see how amazingly this ties in with religious teachings, with mystical teachings, is to be in alignment with the universe, or with God, you could say, with whatever God has suggested for you. In other words, what the universe has brought forth from you, however you'd like to term a higher power, or if you like to have this other concept of no higher power, I am the higher power, then yes, then you created this reality and you are exactly where you were meant to be. So, guys, leave some comments in the thread, or drop me a message.